entertainment, walk to shopping, and walk to housing. This isn't just an interchangeable office park. It's something that you can recruit. The design of this park here, which is the so-called Mardi Gras Park, I think should be left flat. There's almost no place to play for kids. All your parks are extremely complex floor planes. They're cluttered up with paths and, colonnades and fountains and so forth. There isn't a great Frisbee field anywhere, as a park. So keep it open, put trees to shade the people, and on the edges, because it's slightly elevated, actually step it down so that as have steps here and here on, oh God, I forget the name of this one. Okay, Church Street, and then this is, oh, it's Water, sorry. Okay, Royal, yes, that's the one I haven't paid attention to. Royal Street, the parade comes down, and you actually have at the edges, you have it step down so that people can watch the parade. And in the meantime, a masking building on this parking lot and on the other that can look good if not used, but can always give you shade for other events. Outdoor buildings that give you shade. Markets. Just let people decide. Don't worry. People will find uses for things. So it does that park. And then over here, I'd like to present the possibility of a high line, which we detailed in some things. Keep the traffic the way it is. Pick up on the Dauphin Street, which is where the action is. Take it up and over. Connect. Get to the water that you all want to do. Have a couple of restaurants there. This is raised now above the parking lot. You're on the second floor, beautiful view, and then take it around on the existing deck and bring people down to the existing pavement of the park, like that. This actually connects the heavy-duty hotels that you've built here to the convention center, to the water, and down to the park and the other amenities, and it actually connects, it creates that ring. So all these jewels you've bought, now you can string them together. Let me show you a little more. It can actually be done. Now, this is expensive, particularly how we designed it. But from the point of view of DOT, it's nothing. You see, DOT has very large budgets. Remember, they're taking down huge amounts of infrastructure, and they would like nothing better than not having pedestrians mess up their vision of the world by crossing Water Street. So you just say, Mr. and Mrs. DOT, yes, we'll back you in every way, and this is our pedestrian mitigation. And they say, pedestrian mitigation, I've heard about that, and they'll budget it. Okay, so this is the convention center. I spoke about it earlier. This is the Publix. This is the liner building behind it. This is the service area. It all gets serviced through here. This is the little garden. This is the drugstore. Which you can see you can enter. The drugstore is actually not facing out. It's facing so you can enter from here as a pedestrian and from here as a driver. And of course, you can go through the community garden and shop and do your things. This is a nicely detailed version that seamlessly integrates the existing buildings with future buildings. So the whole thing is just as if it were always there. And these are the office buildings. And notice how we now connect down here. This now connects to the waterfront. Because you may not know this, but the whole loop is being brought down to level. It's going to be like an avenue. It's an amazing achievement, by the way, that you already put into place. That is a huge achievement that this is one of the many things that you've been working on, which is just unbelievable to be able to inherit this, to inherit such a huge dislocation of a big piece of junk, that liberates land, permits value to be added with neighborhoods, and allows a design to connect to the water. And to have it all ready on time for our arrival, thank you very much. Normally, we'd be fighting about this. And then this is the walkway I showed earlier. The street remains. The loop that gets you to the hotel is underneath it. And it actually picks up very wide. This is a new building on this side, because this is a severely underutilized lot. So it picks you up off Dauphin, takes you up, takes you over, takes you around and takes you down. And by the way, this is something that mounds slightly. This will be further detailed. That's only 8 feet high at that point. This all is not very dramatic. You know, it seems like an amazing thing. It's not very dramatic. This is a really good drawing that shows. This is the end of Dauphin, right? Notice how on the left it picks up. Dauphin keeps dropping. This starts raising, right? And you're under trees all the way. And there is a bicycle path in the middle, 2 pedestrian paths on the side. And you go over, but you go over on a treed boulevard, you know, not a pipe. So it's very much, and you meet the handicapped elevation. It's like a hill at the end. What it's going to feel like is a hill, and that you've dug Canal Street under, Water Street rather, under, and then you arrive seamlessly at the water where there are 2 restaurants waiting for you, and you can wander all around the convention center and then land on the other side. You know, just gently land in the park where there's more stuff to do. But also the people at the park can then come up, and the people at the convention center can just come back into Dauphin Street. It's just tying all this investment together. The community gardens that I showed earlier, the people who had their eye on them identified several locations. This is within a 1.5-minute walk. You can practically bring your own watering can, since there seems to be trouble. The city is not that cooperative about giving some things like water, you know, turning on the water or whatever it takes. By the way, I have to say one thing. I have heard, I'm not an idiot. I have heard some very bitter stories about impediments that the city has laid across people's plans. Really very unwarranted. And then I speak to the city, and the city has a good reason for having done so, or convinced me that it's a misrepresentation. Okay? Just 2, like that. And there are 2 ships here passing in the night. Very nice people in the city saying, convincing me that it is the fastest, cleanest permitting system I've ever heard of, and friendly as hell. And then people saying it's just a version of Dante's hell, like that. Completely convincing. I go to one, I said, yes, yes, revolution, nothing but revolution. And then I go to the city and say, damn, these developers, they're so abusive. Okay, the mistake I made is that I never had them in the same room. Honestly, that was a huge strategic mistake. I never had them argue it out in front of me. So basically, I met only with developers who invariably complained, and I met only with the administrators of the various codes of the city who actually seemed to be very efficient, you know, and unusually kind of alert, and in some cases, really, really top of the line skillful, and I don't know what the story is. And right now, I honestly don't know what it is. I think we're going to have to come back. There may be 1 or 2 developers that are hopelessly awful, and there may be 1 or 2 bureaucrats that are really mean and close-minded, okay? But that's maybe 2 and 2 or 3 and 3. On the whole, people have to meet. We did have a plan to have, and by the way, the reason that the difficulty comes in is that when you have an old, complicated town, where the buildings are old and they all have stories, nothing is simple. You can't follow protocols. You have to keep it easy. You know, you have to lean back and interpret things benevolently and not apply it as if it were something, you know, some scientific building experiment in Zurich. Okay, for God's sake, it's the Caribbean. You know, it was slack to begin with. No one measured the buildings right to begin with, so don't ask people to measure the buildings again. When they didn't have drawings to build them, why should you draw them now to renovate them? And it occurred to me that there should be a meeting, because the people were so nice when you meet them out here. And I understand it's not so nice when you meet in that city hall of yours. There's something about that city hall that is 1984, right? And it occurred to me, what would happen if there were meetings out, let's say, at the Downtown Alliance, in which a developer